And now, the general weather around Alaska.
First, the fall equinox is September 22nd, and that means astronomical fall begins at 10:50 p.m. Friday, so about another couple of days of summer left, and then fall begins, especially for Saturday. And moving on from there, looking at the there's a flood watch out here for the northern 2/3 of the Panhandle for several inches of rain expected to fall there with an incoming slow-moving front that's going to move very slowly across the area. And so flooding is possible in the shaded areas there. Satellite imagery showing that front right in this position. Most of the moisture sliding rapidly northeastward with a good south-southwest jet pushing it off into the eastern interior there, north of the eastern Alaska Range. Good rainfall, moderate to heavy rain today, Yakutat, and that's starting to spread into the southeast coast as well. A little bit of a break here back to the west. And then this area, clouds, the upper level trough coming in. That's going to keep it wet conditions across south central Alaska up into the interior through tonight. And this will be swinging eastward across Kodiak Island and eastern Bristol Bay this evening and overnight tonight. Good high pressure out here over the Bering Sea in advance of that next front out there to the west. That's got a pretty good cloud shield with it and a lot of precipitation spreading into the western Aleutians today. And then some mixed precipitation up here along the Arctic coast of a light nature with a system up over the Arctic Ocean. Right in about that position, just a very weak trough, weak low center there north of the Arctic coast, bringing some areas of light rain and snow, depending on the time of day there, to the North Slope, mainly the western central North Slope and Arctic coastal areas. Dry and areas of clearing today over the eastern North Slope of the Arctic coast. And drier conditions a little bit now, still pretty showery here over the western part of the state out to the coast. And a couple of lows here, the main one here up near the Kenai Peninsula. And the front, having pushed northeastward here about midday in this position, now even farther to the north. And that brought the rain across all of southern Alaska here overnight and actually late last night and today with precipitation all the way up into the Yukon Flats area this afternoon. After a cold start to the morning up there where Chukchitsik was down to 20 degrees, for example, but be much milder with the clouds and rain overnight tonight, and the rain and wind increasing along the southeast coast. And for tonight, periods of rain, heavy at times for the Panhandle, especially in the northern 3/4 of the Panhandle. Through tonight, rain continues along the North Gulf Coast here. Frontal boundary right in about this position keeps it wet there back into Kodiak Island. Upper level trough coming eastward keeps showers and rain going south central Alaska into the Kuskokwim Valley, northward across the Alaska Range, and some precipitation continues over the upper Tanana Valley, northeastward to the Yukon River there. And rain and snow for the central western Arctic coast, North Slope as well, but starting to dry out now along the west coast here with more of a drier north-northwest flow. Still some showers, but those will be diminishing tonight. Showery for the Alaska Peninsula. Gusty northwest winds maybe as high as 35, possibly 40 miles an hour in the channeled areas there. Light winds, maybe some clearing here, eastern Aleutians, the Pribilofs all the way up to St. Lawrence Island. And again, this ridge ahead of the next rain and wind producing frontal system that's pushing into the eastern Aleutians extends all the way back up into the Russian Far East. And for Thursday, tomorrow, that front continues eastward here, spreading rain into the eastern Aleutians and to the Alaska Peninsula late in the day. Same thing for the Pribilofs. Look for wet conditions by afternoon, periods of light rain. Not much of an increase in the winds, though. And then drying out behind the front as winds turn westerly. High pressure narrowing here as it reaches the coastline, but that's holding together enough to keep skies partly to mostly sunny here with light winds over the western part of the state, gradually progressing eastward, lingering showers along the Alaska Range. It'll be cloudier and damper early on for south central Alaska, but showers persisting all day along the North Gulf Coast, Prince William Sound, even Kodiak Island, one last trough moving through there. Another low system develops and moves northward here off the southeast coast. That's going to slow that front down, so good shot of rain continues there. through the day on Thursday for the Panhandle, especially in the northern areas. A little bit lighter down to the south and more intermittent there. And still some rain and snow up over the north slope in the Arctic coast. That whole mess kind of shifting eastward, but doesn't leave completely. Chance of snow along the central Arctic coast Friday with, again, another very weak trough rotating around that persistent low farther to the north. But it looks partly to mostly sunny. South central Alaska all the way down to Kodiak Island. Central western interior looking really good with light winds. Showers continuing up here in the Tanana Valley areas northward to the Yukon Flats. And this front brings another shot of rain into the Panhandle. Probably not quite as heavy, but still wet weather pattern continues for the next several days there for the southeast coast, while this front out to the west just really falls to pieces here, only bringing a chance of rain into Nunivak Island and some rain or showers here for the eastern Aleutians, Alaska Peninsula, but it'd be pretty light. Otherwise, out to the west, dry conditions. This weak system staying to the south, this one too far north. So southern Bering Sea and the Aleutians not looking too bad with pretty good winds and dry conditions. And moving on, low temperatures tonight, 20s for the Brooks Range, 30 to 35 for the North Slope Arctic coast, upper 30s, St. Lawrence Island, 40s and 50s for the Bering Sea, 30s here for the central interior, all the way back down to near 40 for Bristol Bay, and in the 40s here south central Alaska, and in the 50s for the most part for the Panhandle. Highs tomorrow, mid to upper 50s. Not much of a change with all the clouds and rain there for the Panhandle, and high upper 40s, lower 50s. South and east of the Alaska Range to the North Gulf Coast, lower 50s, Bristol Bay, Kodiak Island, as well as out here over the Bering Sea and the Aleutians. 40s for the central interior, 30s for the North Slope Arctic coast and Brooks Range. Lows definitely down into the 20s here for the Brooks Range, and upper 20s, lower 30s for the North Slope and Arctic coast. 30, 35 for the eastern interior, and in the 30s back to the west here near 40 for St. Lawrence Island. Lower 40s for the Pribilofs, mid 40s for the Aleutians, and near 40 for Kodiak, and lows in the upper 40s to lower 50s for the southeast coast. That'll be followed by highs again, 50 to 55 for the Panhandle, and lower 50s south central Alaska, lower 50s also for Kodiak, and near 50 for Bristol Bay. Everywhere else in the 40s, Brooks Range of the Arctic coast in the 30s for the highs.